Hey everyone, good morning and good evening. Let's start with today's session and let's see what exactly we are doing today. Let me quickly share my screen. Okay, quick recap. Yesterday we have created the first TF configuration wherein we have created a storage account, correct? Then we have integrated a backend and kept a backend TF state file in a remote location such as Azure storage account. Now we'll take this further. Let me just close all this window. Today we'll write one more configuration. The only difference will be writing this configuration to create Azure web app. Okay, so when you create Azure web app, there are multiple things you need to create. First, the service plan. So you have to create the resource group. Second, the service plan. Third, the web app. Okay. Now this is something I don't want to run it manual. I'll be executing this using Azure pipelines. Okay. So till now you have seen the workflow, how we run the init and everything locally. But yeah, this time we'll run all this using pipelines. So basically, we need to automate this entire process. So for doing that, the first thing is I need a repository. So I can go back to my project. This is the project which we were using till now. Go back to the project and I'll create a repository for Terraform first, where I can keep my configuration. Okay. Let's create a new repository. Let's name it as Valaxy TF. Okay. Let me see if there is any git ignore file I can add here. Awesome. Okay, we got this. Let me just clone this locally. Let me clone inside this folder itself, guys. This is the folder which we're using till now. Let me clone it inside this folder. Okay, so git clone followed by the link. Perfect. So it got cloned. Let's move on to the folder Valaxy TF. Okay, let's leave it as it is. Now we are inside that folder. Let's go and use the Visual Studio. Now whatever we create, now this will be created inside my local Git repository, that is valaxy.tf. What all things we need to create? So I will have a providers.tf. I will need resource.tf. Then I will need variables.tf. These are the configuration which I require. Okay, provider.tf, I'll just copy paste from my previous thing what we did, or else have to write this entirely again. Okay, so this is what we have done yesterday, guys. So I'm just copying pasting the same thing. Only the thing is the backend has got deleted. I need to go and create this backend again first. Let me go to the portal. Let's quickly create a storage account manually because I need to store my backend over there. What is the name of the resource group? Okay, so I'm just creating the backend. This name was taken by someone, so I just added 1, 2, 3. Okay, while this backend is getting created, let's go and create a resource block, and let's name it as Azure RM underscore resource group. Okay, so the local name of the resource group, name it as Valaxy-RG. You can keep the local name and actual name also same, guys. There's no hard and fast rule on that. Okay, you can keep, if you want to keep the same as Valaxy-RG, you can keep that. Okay, location East US. Okay, so we got this. Now, if you want to define this as a variable, we all know we can go and define it as a variable. Name it as resource group, resource name. You can have description, enter resource group, name. You can have default values as Valaxy-RG, type string. Okay, type string. Okay, this is how you can also define variables. This is something we have seen yesterday. If you want to call this variable over here, just do where resource name. Okay, now this is what we have seen till now. We have defined the variable, we got the provider. Let me see if the storage account is ready. Yes, I need to create a container now. Let's go and create a container. What is the name of the container? Blob. Okay, blob. Perfect. This looks perfect. Okay, now what exactly? So this is something we have done till now, guys. This is something I have just repeated myself. Nothing extra we did. Now I need to add few things. Now I need to create a web app. Now when you create a web app, there are multiple things you need to require. You need to have a service plan first, then you need to have a web app created. So let's go and add those things also. Again, when you create a web, so the first thing we are creating is a service plan. Okay, so it is Azure RM service plan. This is the one. Okay, I can take a name of my service plan. I can name it as Valaxy Dev -SP. SP stands for service plan. This is again a local name, guys. This is up to you if you want to use the same name or if you want to use a different name while creating the service plan. Okay, now I can, so service plan, what are the prerequisites, what are the arguments needed to create a service plan? How do we know? Either I can go to the Terraform documentation, or you can go and look onto the portal what all things are required. So as I know, we require a name. So this is the name which is required. So I'll just name it as same name, Valaxy Dev -SP. Okay. Now location is required. I can go and use the same location. So I want the location of this resource group. How do we call this over here? Anyone? If I want to call this location over here, how do I call it?
So are you looking for East US? Or
I need this East US over here. So how do I call the location?
is it like a Azure RM resource group dot Valaxy RG dot name or something? No, dot location.
Perfect. So yes, you're right. Absolutely. Azure RM dot Valaxy -rg dot location. Perfect. Okay. Now I need a resource group name also. So resource group name, I can do the same way Azure RM, or I do have a variables defined. So I can just call the variable. Both the ways are okay. Okay. If you want to define this name also as a variable, you can do it, guys. I have showed you this variable is defined over here. If you want all the hard-coded value, this is a hard-coded value. This is not accepted. This is surely not accepted. If you want to define this as a variable, please go and do it. Okay. Now resource group is there. Now OS type, what type of OS? This is a must argument. So this is, we need Linux. So we'll be creating a Linux based machine, Linux. Okay. SKU wherein we need to define what type of compute you want to select. So F1, we all know it comes in free tier. So I'm just selecting F1 over here. Okay. Now this is creating a service plan. Now, if you want, we can also have one more resource block wherein we will creating a web app. Okay. So this time I'm creating a Linux web app. So Linux has its own resource type, Azure RM-Linux. So there is a resource type called -Linux web app. Don't worry, I'll show you the official documentation and I'll show you how do we get all this information. Okay, now if you see this, Azure Linux web app, you can give a local name to your web app. Now let me give a name as Valaxy Dev web app. Okay, hopefully this name is not used. Okay, I'll be using the same name, I'm just referring to the same local name as my application name also. Okay, now I'll just use the same name, Valaxy -dev web app. Okay, now what all things are required? Need a resource group name first. So I'll have the resource group name as where.resource name, and then we'll need a location. Location, I can use it as Azure RM dot Valaxy dot location, this one. Okay, now this web app is basically dependent on the service plan which you're creating. This web app is basically dependent on the service plan which you're creating. If the service plan creation fails, the web app will not be created, guys. Okay, so we need a service plan ID over here. Service plan ID, and basically the service plan ID, you'll get it from here. You get it from Azure RM service plan, the local name dot ID dot ID. Okay, this ID will be generated when this service plan will be created, and then the ID will be called over here. When this service plan will be generated, then this ID will be called. Okay, done. The only thing is remaining, I need a site config over here. And in this I'll have always on as false. Okay, now this always on is a parameter, guys, to keep your web app on always and running our application 24/7. Now because we are using a free tier, in free tier you don't have the capability of running your web app 24/7. For that, at least you have to go to the premium one, the P1, V1, and those SKU you need to select. So I don't want to use that. I want to stick with my free tiers. That's why I am using this additional parameter. Okay, of always on. Okay, now this is my web app got created. I have the web app got created. If I want to test it, I can run this locally and I can do the plan and things like that. I can do it. Or else if you want to integrate directly with your pipelines, you can do that also. Now if you want to run locally, let's do that. Let's see if there is any issue. Let's run this init. I'll not push this log files because this is already ignored by my get ignore file. That's okay. Failed to get existing while retrieving key for storage account. Okay, it's not able to retrieve keys. The reason is, okay, I'll not run locally, guys. The reason is I'm not logged in right now to this account. I'm not logged into this account right now. Okay. So remember, till now I was using my different account, a different portal, and I'm logged in using on that portal. So if I want to run it, I need to log into this portal one more time. Then this message which I'm getting, storage failure response, this message I'll not get. So it's better. What should we do? Let's go back to the Azure DevOps itself and let's run it from there. Okay. So if I run the git status, I'll have a couple of changes. So there are a couple of files which has been added. Let me make sure that I've saved it all. Okay. Let me just add this all. Let me commit. Okay. Now let me push it to my remote repository. Perfect. Let's go back to Azure DevOps. Refresh it. Perfect. We got the provider.tf file. We got the resource.tf file. We got the variables.tf file. Okay. First thing, you need Terraform plugins. Without Terraform plugin, you cannot do anything. So go to this marketplace. Do you see this Terraform plugin? Get it for free. This is from official supported on Microsoft.com. So you can go and get this plugin installed on your project. Again, in reality, you will not have access to install all this. This goes to the owner. Then, unlike me, I'm getting a I'm getting an option. The extension is already present. Unlike me, I will get an install option over here. But in reality, you'll have to raise a request. There will be a request form over here. You need to click on request, and that request goes to your owner. Now he will go and look into that request. Like logs in, once he logs in under organization settings, under extension, he will see your request over here, and he can go and accept the request. And once he accepts, it gets installed, and it will be visible over here. Now, if you see, Terraform is visible over here. So this was already installed on my local. So keep that in mind, guys. So in case in your company, if you're not able to get the extension, that means the request has been sent to the owner. Just keep that in mind. These are all third-party plugins which you're installing. Okay, are we good? Anyone? Any questions? If no questions, let's move on. Going back, I got the files. Let's go and create pipelines. So I'll stick with YAML this time. Whereas Valaxy TF, I'll use a starter pipeline. Okay, there's nothing right now. So let me just remove all the steps. Remove this part also. Okay, what all things is required to run a Terraform? We need init, we can run validate, then we can run plan, then we can run apply. These are the steps, correct? The same steps you need to put in your YAML also. Okay, so let's go and make use of the source system and look for Terraform. Now this is provider Azure RM, perfect. Init, where the files are, it will be in system default working directory. How the files will come over here? So when you run the pipeline, the initialization happen and all your repository gets cloned to this location. we all know, right, guys? This has been, we are doing this from since very long now. Okay. Now this is asking for where is your backend. Okay. You need to define the backend in your pipelines also. So my backend is over here. Container name blob key. I can have a key name as, what is the key name we have defined? Raw tf state. Okay. Perfect. Come over here. Make sure you're in the aligned. Add it. I can have a display name. I can name it as Terraform init, initialization step, Terraform init. Okay, so this is init is happening right now. Now, along with init, I want to do a validate also. Terraform, change this to validate. Okay, validate, nothing, argument and nothing is required. Now I can do a validate. Perfect. Now these are the two steps. Let's run this first and let's see if there's any error. Because there could be a chance that my configuration might have some issues. So let's go and see this. Save this. And run this pipeline. So I got two workflow. I got Terraform validate. It is asking for permission. Let's go and permit this. Okay, so I got two things running in. I got the Terraform init and I got the Terraform validate. So I'm just verifying if everything is good before we go and run the apply or plan command. I could have added plan also. Understood, guys, what exactly we did? We created the configuration. We have the repository already created. We pushed all our changes into a remote repository. Now we are creating a build pipeline to run our configuration. Okay, so it's done also while we are waiting. So init has happened. So initialization was successful. This was a validate task. The configuration is valid. Let me add a plan task because nothing to see over here. Let's give a display name. Validate. Okay. Let's come and add a plan. Okay, with plan, let's go and add this. Display name Terraform plan. Perfect. Let me save this and this pipeline will get auto executed. Let's wait and see. So this is what we are doing right now. This is just a one-time activity. Once everything is set up, going forward, the developer can just come and whoever is developing this configuration, they can make changes over here. And as soon as they make changes, they can push it. As soon as they push it, the CI/CD pipeline will automatically run. So the web app will be created post where web app creation. If you want to deploy something, deploy your application like the way we did it in ARM, even that is possible. So how you want to integrate, it will be totally up to you. The planning also looks good. Now, if you see this, what all things are getting created, the planning is very similar what we were doing locally, guys. Nothing different over here. This is nothing but it's a agent pool which is running on a Linux machine, and this is giving you the output over there. So just imagine you're running a Terraform plan manually by yourself. This is the same command which is getting executed. So this is getting created. Now if you see this, this is your web app which is getting created. over here, and you will have your resource group getting created. You will have your service plan getting created over here. The SKU what we have selected, F1, that comes in free tier. Now again, if you go back to your portal, the storage account, and you can see your state file. You will have the state file created. You will not have, because we just did the plan, guys. We have not executed anything, so you cannot see this planning information inside your state file. This will be visible only after you do a apply. But the point is, the state file prod.terraform.tf state got, this particular blob got created now. So you need to have this backend created beforehand if you want to execute it through CI/CD pipeline. Just keep that in mind. Okay, now this is done. Let me go and apply. So this plan is not needed. If you want, you can remove this plan step. I can simply go and run the apply now. Okay, Terraform apply. Select the subscription. Okay, Terraform apply. If you guys remember, we need to, when you run the apply, at one point of time it will stop and it will ask for your approval whether to proceed further or not. Correct? But this is running on agent pool. This is not I'm running on any server wherein I can go and manually go and approve it. Okay, so in such cases you need to, this additional argument box what you see over here, you can put that auto approve thing. Okay, spelling mistake. You can put this auto approve thing in the additional argument over here. Okay, now let's come back, add this. Now this will go and automatically approve, because if you don't put this, your pipeline will fail, guys, because there is no way you can go to the agent pool where this is getting executed and click yes, type yes over there. So this needs to be added. Make sure to add this. Save it, execute it. Now this is something needs to be created online. Let's wait and watch. Anyone, any questions till now? Hopefully this Git and all is known to you guys, because this is something we did at the very beginning. Anyone has any confusion?
I do have
Yep.
some confusion, but I'll wait until you go back to the configuration files in VS Code.
Okay, let's go back while it's running. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was a little bit confused about, if you go to your resource file. Yeah, so the very first resource, the location says East US, the very first one at the top. Yeah, so I'm confused as to why that location, the name of that location, is different from the other, from how you define the locations in the other resources.
Okay, so this is how you will reference. So all these other resources which we are creating over here, I want to use the same resource group name and the same location which I'm creating over here. This is how you reference. So once you have created the location, defined the location over here, this is how you call the location name. So if you want to use this location and this resource name in this resources, so this is how you call the resource type dot the local name dot the location. This is how I'm calling resource type dot the local name of the resource group dot the location. So what will happen in when you execute this configuration, this part gets replaced with this East US. And similarly, if you want, you can have this location defined in your variables. And if you want to call it as a variable, like the way if you see the resource group name, so I'm calling, so I'm doing this for purpose, guys. I've used two different ways of calling. One is through variables and one is through this way. Now in my resource group name, if you see, I have defined my resource group name somewhere over here. Now how do I call this name? So this will be where dot resource, the local name of the variable which you have defined. So that is what we are doing. Where dot, if you see this, where dot resource name. So there are two ways. If I want this, like suppose if you want this location to be defined over here, like something like this, variable, let's have this as location. Let's have location name. Now let's give it as description. Location name. Okay. Default value. Let's give it a default value as East US. Type. It should be a string. Okay. Now the same thing. If I want to call this location over here, I can just simply have where dot location name. That's it. Now doing this way, the advantage is you're not hard coding. I can also have this over here. Doing this way, you're not hard coding now. What exactly you're doing? You're not hard coding anything. You are simply defining a separate file wherein all the values are defined. Now tomorrow, if you want to share this file with someone, they can simply come to this section and they can just edit this values. That's it. Okay, so if even the name which is hard coded over here, the names, the OS type, the SKU name, all this can be defined as a variable. Okay, so there are two ways how you call it. Hope that makes sense.
Makes sense. Thank you.
No. Okay, so it's always good to refer whenever you want to call the local name. It should be the resource type dot the local name dot the argument. This is how you can call it. Make sure you are in the same folder. Like if you see, we are in the Valaxy.tf. It will not happen. This thing will not work. If suppose one file is defined in one folder, the other file is defined in the storage account folder. No, then it will not work. It should be all in the same folder. Now all these three files, my three files are there in the same folder. So make sure your folder is same. Just keep that in mind. Okay. Okay, perfect. This looks good. This got created. How do we verify? Go back. Okay, we got this SP created. We got this web app created. Perfect. Let me see. We should have the web app up and running now. File. If you want to delete everything, so we can even run the command destroy. You need to go and edit this file, and we can run the command terraform destroy. So when you're running the command terraform destroy, you will surely not need this apply and the plan thing. But yeah, you will definitely need the init thing. So let me show you terraform destroy. Again, I'll need the auto approve flag, subscription. Okay. Now this is not needed. I'll have to comment this out. Plan is not needed. I'll have to comment this out. Validate is also not needed. I have to comment this out. But you will definitely need this init. Without init, you cannot destroy. display name, I'll name it as Terraform destroy. Okay, this is the web app up. It's still coming up. Why it's slow today? Let me open in incognito. Yeah, your web app is running and waiting for your content. So now I can go and get my Node.js, Java, .NET, whatever code you have as an artifact, we can go and deploy it on top of it. Okay, looks good. So the web app is up and running. Now let's go and see if the destroy works. So let's save this. Now if you see, my destroy command would be executing now. So this is how you will be managing things. Now till now we have done this using local. Now this is the first time we are executing this through pipeline. So this is how you will be doing in reality, guys. You'll be the developer might be creating things from your local, and this is how you will be integrating with your CI/CD pipeline. Okay, now after this, if you want to have a deployment stage wherein you want to deploy your application, then you can also add a deployment stage in this same YAML file. Or if you want to use a separate YAML file, and if you want to keep it as a continuation, even that is possible. So whichever way you want to design and define your pipelines, now that will be totally up to you. Okay? How you want the Terraform to create the infra, then execute the deployment, or if you want to do it in the same YAML, or if you want to have a different pipeline, up to you how you want to define it. Okay.
I got a quick question. Sorry. So you just deployed a web application. So I would consider this as a form of deployment using a build pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't use the release pipeline at all.
Mm-hmm.
So in reality, though, could we have, well, are we going to be adding stages? Like, for example, after the Terraform validate or Terraform plan, in reality, one would, I feel like we would need some type of approval stage before we use the Terraform apply.
Okay, so approval, then you can have, this is something we have done it in YAML. If you have something set up as environments, you will have, even with YAML, you can have all the approval and everything. But the same thing, the exact same thing what we're doing using YAML, if you want to do it over here, exact same thing you can do it over here. You will have the same. Let me get this empty job first. You can have the same Terraform task. So if you want to do it at the release end of the segment, you can do the same thing over here. But in between, you're asking before, after the plan and the apply, you want the approval in between the task, you're saying, correct? Is
Yeah,
that your
like
requirement?
it makes sense to have an approval before apply, and maybe yes, or after plan or before apply.
No, then that case, why you're using pipeline? If you want in between, because between the task, this is getting executed on an agent pool. This is not getting executed somewhere on a local, correct? So in between the tasks, you cannot have between stages. If you want approval, that is possible. Like if you have dev stage, QA stage, and production and such stages, if you want approval, we can definitely add. Now you're talking about adding approval between the task which is getting executed. No, that is quite not possible. And that's why we are adding this auto approve, the flag which we are using, so that it gets approved automatically. Because if you don't do it, for example, if you don't put the auto approve, it will get stuck. When it runs the apply command, it will get stuck on the approval segment, and there is no way that you can log into the agent pool and approve it manually. So that's why we are using the flag auto approve. So
Could you do it in a way where you have like up to the plan in one stage and then the apply like in a different stage? Could you do it that way?
perfect. You can do it. Now you can have multi-stage. Now you can have a plan stage. So this is the even one of the way of doing. You will have a plan stage, then you can in between consider as a apply stage. In between put an approval. Like suppose you'll have multiple tasks over here. Like same way. Let's name this as plan stage. Okay. This is one way of doing. It's up to you how you are defining. This is apply stage, for example. Okay. Now you can have a approval over here, but you will have to have your init plan, and also over here you need to have your init apply. Init will be everywhere then,
Okay.
because
And,
yeah,
oh, sorry, I
yeah.
had
So
one more question. So if
yeah.
you do the plan, like
Mm-hmm.
you have to what's the word? Run the that is it output to a like a file or something so that you can use it in the next stage, or will it just know?
No. So if you're creating an output that you can keep it for reference, but you can have this plan created as an output as a JSON file, and you can keep it. But that will basically, when you do apply, it's better to do the init again, and because if there's any configuration change, your output file which you're saving, that may be outdated, or it could be an old version if there's a configuration change. So it's always recommended to run the init again, and when you do the apply will always run the plan thing plan thing for you, and it will give you the plan again. So
Okay.
if you think that my configuration might change, but I want to stick with the old plan, then at that time you can keep this plan as output and save it as a JSON file and refer that JSON file for applying. But that is not the right way. If you're changing in your configuration, your apply should go and add those changes inside the configuration, because later your TF state file, when you do a refresh, there will be a mismatch, correct? Because you have used a previous version of your plan. Now there is a change in the configuration. So your desired state and your current state, there's a mismatch. So you may have to end up applying or deleting something. So yeah, all the ways are possible. Whatever way you think, like see this plan and apply, even this is possible, even this will work. Now this is something you guys need to design based on what is the requirement of your project, how you need to do. Do you want to have a approval in between? Do you want to run it as a YAML, or do you or if you want to run it in two different pipelines, you want to run it as continuation? Whatever way you need to run, now this will be your piece of cake. How you want to execute, that is something you need to think of. In reality, you will have the Terraform pipeline separate, wherein all your Terraform pipeline will go and create your infrastructure, manage your infrastructure, and your deployment pipelines are separate. Okay. Now, if you want to have a continuation, sometime we give a, like once the Terraform pipeline is successful, we automatically go and execute the other pipeline. So such setup, what we do in reality when you start working on a real-time project. We don't do anything as such, guys. We don't keep plan and apply separate, because if your plan is already tested locally, everything is looking good, we just push the things into this Git repository. From there, it is in auto mode. It will go and deploy things for you. Make sense? Any questions over here?
Thank you. That's clear.
No problem. Anyone else? Any other question, guys?
I had one question. So
Tell
you
me.
know how when we did the Java like pipeline and deployment,
Mm-hmm.
um, we added things like SonarQube, and there was some testing involved.
Correct.
Can how would you do that with like Terraform? Can you use SonarQube for Terraform as well?
For Terraform, you want to add SonarQube?
Like so I went for an interview and they asked me, oh, you know, what would you have in a gold plated or gold standard pipeline. And I wasn't really sure what to say. I mentioned Sonaku because I remembered, because we had covered it, but are there other things?
Gold plate. No, so basically they're asking you about your complete build and release with all the possible security things what you can add in. That is what this is, a different naming convention nowadays they have started. Gold plated and platinum plated. I don't know from where they're getting this jargon. So
Okay,
basically they're asking you all the complete flow. Okay, suppose there is a Java application, they are asking you about the complete flow with all the possible securities like unit test cases, code coverage, your static code analysis, dynamic code analysis, and if there are using such names gold plated, then we can add vulnerability scanning and those things also to the pipelines. Okay,
okay,
so these words, gold plated, platinum plated, silver plated, these are all made up words. There's nothing technicality on these, so don't go with such things. Whenever they ask anything related to pipeline, make sure to give the complete flow without missing on anything. And once you give the complete flow, all these gold plated and things are added, don't worry. So all
okay,
these are made up words, nothing gold plated anything as such. I don't know
okay,
from where these words.
okay,
Okay, so guys, once uh, let me show you the official documentation of Terraform now, because I've been writing this configuration by myself, but this is something you can get it very easily on the terraform.io. Always make use of this configuration. No need of going on any Google, any third-party vendor, any third-party website. Let me tell you, this particular site, when you go to registry providers and Azure, it has everything in it. Like what did we create just now? We created an Azure web app. So if you just look for Azure app service over here, if I come down, do you see this Azure app service? Okay. So the resource has been depreciated. Now it is Linux web app. This is what we were using. Linux web app, correct? Go to Linux web app. Now do you see the piece of code? What are the argument required? Everything is given over here. Now the only difference is I have used SKU as F1, and in the site config I have used something else called always on, because F1 will not work if always on is true. So by default, the always on flag which we were using, this is true. Now this will not work with F1 if it is true. So that's why I need to use this flag. That is the only difference. Rest everything is same. They are calling it. They have not defined variable. That's a different story. You need to go and define the variable. This is how it is required. Okay, this is web app. Now you want to create a VM, Linux VM, Azure VM. Let's go ahead. Remove this guide. Let's give a proper name as virtual machine. Azure RM virtual machine. See the resource compute virtual machine. You got scale set. So you have everything. Now let me show you the virtual machine. Come down. Now there are Azure virtual machine has been superseded by Linux virtual machine and Windows virtual machine. So which virtual machine do you want to create? I want to create a Linux one. Let's go to the Linux one. Now you will have your example code over here. Now what is there in the example code? First, the resource group. Second, you're creating a virtual network. Third, you're creating a subnet. This is the flow which you need to follow when you are actually creating a virtual machine, guys. You need to have a virtual network. The virtual network will have a subnet. The subnet will have a network interface card. The interface card will have a IP configuration which will assign a IP addresses to you. Then once your network setup is done, see this, once the network setup is done, then you will go and create your virtual machine. Now this is where the virtual machine is getting created with the SSH keys. If you want to have a SSH key login, this can be even changed with local login. Okay, this is the key which will be generated. This is the OS disk which will be attached, and this is the image which you're using. Now, if you want to change the image to 1804 or 2004 or 2204, that's totally up to you. Now, apart from this, this is the example given to you. You can have the same example used, or you can, based on this example, you can make changes and add your own arguments. You can add multiple your own arguments. So this is how using Terraform documentation is very well written, guys. This is one of the best documents which I have found till now. This Terraform and Kubernetes official documentation is very well written. You get everything on the documentation page. You don't need to go on any third party and get yourself confused, because if you go to any third party site and you look for the piece of code over there, they might have added multiple other things which doesn't make sense. Okay, so it's always a good practice. Even in your company, when you're working, you can go and refer to these piece of code. And this is for reference, guys. I'm not telling you to copy paste the entire thing. Understand what exactly you know now, what exactly things are written, how this, what are these arguments? These are the required arguments. Can I have some more arguments added, which is in optional? Think of it. Okay, then go and use it. Don't just copy and paste. Understand what exactly it is written and then start using. Same way you can, if you want to create AKS, App Insight, App Service, all the things are given over here in the documentation. Okay, make sure to practice this. Make sure, try to create a VM by yourself and let me know if you guys are able to create Azure VM using Terraform. Let me know if there is any, what are the error you get. If you get stuck while creating VM, just let me know, then we can possibly troubleshoot that issues. Okay, any question, any doubt? Anyone? No question? So let's, I want to start Ansible today, guys. So at least start the introduction Ansible. Tomorrow, from tomorrow onwards, we'll start setting up Ansible and we'll start running the Ansible commands. So Ansible is divided into multiple types. We'll see the ad hoc commands, the imperative and the declarative way both. We'll set up the multiple VMs and we'll try to execute playbooks. We'll see what is Ansible roles, and there are many things what we'll go through, or else I'll start tomorrow only because it will be too much for today for you guys. Okay, make sure to go and practice. We still have time, more half an hour to go, guys. If you have any questions, any doubt, if you guys are stuck, do let me know, because I don't want to start any new topic today. So if you have anything, please do let me know, or else we can wind up the call for today.
I got a
Anyone?
question about Ansible. Just curious, are we going to be integrating that with Azure DevOps pipelines as well?
There's no need, but that's not a big deal of even if you want to integrate Ansible configuration. Okay, so we can do that. But yeah, in this course we don't have it. But that's not a big deal. Like the way Terraform is, even the Ansible can be easily integrated with your pipelines. Configuration can be, but Ansible is more like a configuration tool. So answering to your question, why do you want to integrate? Because this is more like a management tool which your administrator will be running to make certain changes. Okay, like you want to restart Apache. So if you want pipelines to restart your Apache, then there's no need of Ansible. You can configure your pipeline to restart Apache for all your end servers. Ansible is for targeting bunch of VMs at a time. Then my question, why do you want to integrate with your CI/CD?
Oh, so at my workplace, we use Terraform for deploying the resources into Azure, but then like to join the domain or for any like custom config of the like the VMs, for example, we use Ansible and we
Okay.
put that in the pipeline. Is that not good practice or?
No, see, again, it depends upon the architect, how
Okay.
you have designed the flow. Now, in in your case, you guys have defined everything in pipelines, correct? So you are using Ansible task to execute the configuration. Now you have used Terraform for, suppose you're using Terraform for creating your infrastructure. So Terraform is a IAC tool for you. Now Ansible you're using as a configuration management, like whatever infra you have created, now you want to make configure that infra, like you want to install something, some packages on it, you want to configure Apache, you want to restart Apache, all these steps. So you guys might have written a playbook for that.
Yeah.
You have defined your host files somewhere. Okay, then you have integrated Ansible with your pipeline. So yeah, so I'm not denying that you cannot do it. You can do it. Now, based on your requirement, if you have such requirement that if we can integrate Ansible with pipeline, that will make more sense, because Ansible is mostly wherein you make administrative changes, wherein you make configuration changes. So if you want to go through a pipeline route, quite possible. If you want to do it from Ansible administrative server, quite possible. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. So we can do it manually. If you want to integrate it with your CI/CD pipeline, even that is possible. All the ways, ifs and but is possible in DevOps. When you come in DevOps, there's nothing as no. Whatever you can think of, there is a way out to do it. Just keep that in mind. If you want to integrate Ansible with Jenkins, even that is possible. Okay, yeah, we'll see. As of now, that's not a plan of integrating Ansible. We'll see, but it's a good question. If time permits, I'll definitely integrate Ansible with CI/CD pipeline. I'll show you guys. Don't worry. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions, guys? No one? Hopefully everyone is practicing. Anyone is stuck on any topic which you want me to do a recap, quick recap? No one? Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Let's meet up tomorrow and let's start with a new topic called Ansible. Ansible is very good, and from the DevOps perspective, if you want to be a successful DevOps engineer, Terraform and now Ansible, these are some good topics which you should know. Okay, Ansible, Chef, Puppet, these are very widely used tools in the market, in which Ansible is something which you can definitely you should have knowledge of. So this is something. So that's why this Ansible is added in the course curriculum. Okay, so we'll see everything from scratch, starting from imperative commands and the declarative way, how you run Ansible, how you write playbooks, what is Ansible role, what is Ansible Galaxy. So there are many things which we need to learn in Ansible. That is something we'll see it from tomorrow onwards. Okay, so that's it for me. Thank you very much. Let's meet up tomorrow and let's continue with Ansible. Bye bye.